We're starting off with WWE, and due to a torn triceps, CM Punk has yet again been robbed of his dream of headlining WrestleMania in a huge setback for the Chicago-made superstar. While Punk won't wrestle at the event, fans are still hopeful he'll have some role at the two-night show, and now a recent announcement by WWE has intrigued the WWE universe. As revealed on WWE's website, Punk is advertised for the April 1st edition of Raw from the Barclays Center, which will serve as the go-home Raw before WrestleMania. The star could end up in a referee role, as a commentator, or even as the host of the event, but it remains to be seen if that happens. CM Punk's return last year was a huge score for WWE, so it makes sense they want him at WrestleMania, even if he won't be lacing up his boots this April in Philly. If you've seen The Rock on social media, you'll know he is an incredibly generous individual, often buying expensive items for his family and friends to show his appreciation. This week, the Great One once again opened his heart and wallet, this time to Esperanza and Edwin, a couple who recently lost their daughter Lily Rose to cancer. In an emotionally charged video, the couple revealed how their daughter was a big fan of Maui, The Rock's character from Moana, which moved the WWE star immensely. The couple have started a foundation to help families going through similar situations, and in the video, The Rock donated $50,000 to help them out. In the caption to the video, The Rock said that he doesn't know why heartbreak like this happens, but it shows that people should be there to help each other when life hits them hard. This is a truly generous, heartwarming act from The Rock, showing that for his on-screen heel work, the Brahma Bull still has a heart as big as his biceps. It was during the Men's Royal Rumble match that Andrade El Idolo returned to WWE less than a month after it was confirmed on the World's End media scrum that he had left AEW. It had been rumored for some time prior to his exit that Andrade wanted out of AEW, but Tony Khan did what he could to retain the services of the former NXT champion. Dave Meltzer reported this week that Andrade was given a good offer to stay with AEW, but ultimately chose to leave anyway, and more recently signed with Monday Night Raw. Andrade's reason for picking Raw is because he's already worked with many people on SmackDown and wants some fresh challenges. And who do you want to see him face in WWE? Over to AEW Dynamite, as Sting made a statement at this week's show when he descended from the rafters like his WCW days to save Ric Flair and Darby Allin from the Young Bucks. After the show, Sting expressed gratitude to the Huntsville crowd and spoke about it being his last Dynamite as an active performer ahead of his retirement this weekend. Reflecting on the history in the venue, he thanked the fans sincerely, acknowledging the impact of Darby Allin and expressing love for Ric Flair. Sting concluded with a series of thank yous, showing his appreciation for all those who have supported him ahead of his final ever match at this Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view. Sting and Allin will defend their AEW World Tag Team titles in a tornado tag match against the Bucks, and we'll have to see if the Icon ends his AEW run undefeated at Revolution. We know by now that Sting will have his last match this weekend, but that doesn't mean that it'll be the last time we see the Icon in AEW. Ric Flair is retired from wrestling multiple times, yet still appears on a nearly weekly basis, and Tony Khan wouldn't have an issue with Sting doing the same. During the AEW Revolution media call, Khan emphasized that Sting is the greatest legend in AEW and said the offer will always be there for him to have a role in the company. He said, "For me, I'd love to have Sting back in AEW at any time, and I know he said he would like to come back. We won't hold him or force him to come back at any point. It's not like we've locked in dates where he's definitely going to be there or contracted him. It's going to be really nice after 3 years of pushing himself and have the longevity in his career that all wrestlers can aspire to and dream of. Now is a great time for Sting to take time for himself and his family after this. Whatever the result is on Sunday, Sting can take pride that he's had the most incredible final run that I can remember." Sting doesn't plan on wrestling anymore, but with decades in the business to his name, we're sure he'd be able to put all that experience to use in a behind-the-scenes capacity. Ultimately, Khan will let Sting do what Sting thinks is best, and would you like to see more of Sting even after his retirement match? Let us know in the comments. When Tama Tonga announced that he'd be leaving New Japan, he said it was so he could spend time with his family, which many took as a sign he wanted to take a break from wrestling. Well, this week it was reported that he is set to join WWE very soon, but that doesn't mean his claim of wanting more family time is any less accurate. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Tonga's situation was discussed, and it was revealed that he'd been talking with WWE off and on since this time last year. It was also explained that the current plan is for Tonga to join his family in the Bloodline, but WWE plans on keeping him off TV until after WrestleMania 40. Being thrust into the most dominant faction in decades is certainly a strong start for Tama Tonga's WWE run, and what do you make of these plans? Sound off in the comments below. After this week's Dynamite, AEW filmed its go-home episode of Collision before Revolution, which saw a shocking moment that featured the House of Black's Buddy Matthews. As PW Insider reports, Matthews was set to take on a mystery opponent when he was ambushed by Mark Briscoe, with the pair brawling outside of the ring. Briscoe took advantage after leaping off a chair to deliver a crushing blow to Matthews and sent him hurtling through a table that had been set up. Briscoe then attempted to use a spike on Matthews, only to be thwarted by the other House of Black members, but the action was far from over. Briscoe refused to back down and fought back using a chair to try and even the odds, and the pair continued brawling all the way up to the stage. At one point, Briscoe was seemingly attempting to burn Matthews using the stage's pyro, but security intervened and prevented the situation from escalating further. The House of Black managed to escape as Mark triggered all the pyro on the stage, causing a dramatic and explosive scene. This was truly an exciting, shocking display that fans will get to see this Saturday, as the feud between Mark Briscoe and the House of Black is reaching new levels of violence and drama. Well, it was at Full Gear that AEW officially confirmed Will Ospreay had signed with the company. The Brit had been appearing before then and had been allies with Don Callis. Despite this partnership, Ospreay will face Konosuke Takeshita, another Callis affiliate, at Revolution, and this match may mark the end for Callis and Will. Fightful Select reports that while Ospreay is currently aligned with the Don Callis family, sources don't expect him to be with the heel faction for long now that he's officially All Elite. The future looks bright for Ospreay and AEW, especially as the company prepares to return to his native UK for All In 2 this August, a show Ospreay will most certainly be on. Ospreay is guaranteed to receive a positive response in Wembley Stadium, and with that in mind, it may not be long before he parts ways with the heels of the Don Callis family. But what do you think of this? Should Will split from Callis and the others? And what do you want to see from him in AEW? Give your thoughts in the comments section below. As we've mentioned, Sting will compete in his final match this weekend at AEW Revolution, and given the impact of his career, it's not a surprise that people want to see his retirement live. Of course, though, several names who have been influenced by Sting in his career now work for WWE, raising questions as to whether they'd be allowed to attend the show. According to a recent report by Fightful Select, though, WWE has not banned any of its talent from being at Revolution to support Sting, and a positive sign for potential attendees. It's worth mentioning that WWE stars are not intrinsically banned from AEW events, as Charlotte Flair was sometimes backstage at shows to support Andrade during his All Elite run. With that said, WWE talent would be wise not to appear on camera at Revolution, but this weekend's event may see some WWE stars in attendance to celebrate the Stinger. More from Dynamite, as Ric Flair was part of the segment featuring the Young Bucks, but fans were hardly thrilled to see the 16-time world champion. During the segment, Flair came to the aid of Darby Allin, who was being attacked by the Bucks, and threw some hands before being floored by a low blow, which prompted Sting's arrival. On Twitter, fans lambasted the segment, with one calling it embarrassing to watch, while another mocked Flair's performance, saying it was like a video in slow motion. Another fan simply said, "This was bad," which is the sentiment many shared, but on Twitter, Flair simply posted the video of the segment and said that he was Team Sting until the very end. Flair was brought into AEW for Sting's retirement tour, and it's unclear what'll happen for the Nature Boy after Revolution. And what did you think of the segment on this week's Dynamite? Earlier this month, a tag team match featuring El Hijo del Vikingo was stopped after the AAA Mega Champion sustained a knee injury and was tended to backstage. In an update, Vikingo took to Instagram to reveal that he suffered a ruptured ligament and damaged meniscus and underwent surgery yesterday. Vikingo thanked those who have messaged him out of concern and thanked his family for keeping an eye on him and vowed that he'd see everybody very soon. All plans for Vikingo will have to be put on hold, including any plans in AEW, and the Luchador hasn't competed in that company since the January 24th edition of Rampage. At this time, it's unclear how long Vikingo will be out of action for, but we're wishing the AAA Mega Champion a full and speedy recovery. 1 month ago to the day, Kazuchika Okada officially ended his 17-year run with New Japan, and there's been a ton of talk as to where his future would be. It's since been reported that he's set to join AEW, and fans may not have to wait long to see his arrival. Fightful Select reports that the company is aiming for Kazuchika Okada's potential debut on the March 6th episode of Dynamite in Atlanta, as teased by Tony Khan in a recent media call. Khan said there's something he's very excited about for that show, and it was noted that the hope was initially set for Okada to be part of AEW by mid-February. Okada seems poised to debut next week, while Mercedes Moné is expected to join the week after at Big Business, and AEW is certainly bolstering its roster in 2024. When AJ Styles finally joined WWE in 2016, he'd end his first year as WWE Champion, and from 2017 to 2018 would enjoy his second run with a gold that'd last over a year. It's been over 5 years now since Styles last held a WWE World Championship, but the Phenomenal One wants to change that before he hangs up his boots for good. While speaking to Afterwards with John Jay and Rich, AJ discussed his time as WWE Champion and expressed his desire to have one more run, stating, "I need that championship one more time before I call it quits." Styles' most recent title opportunity came at the Royal Rumble, where he, alongside LA Knight and Randy Orton, unsuccessfully challenged for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. At 46 years old, Styles has been open in the past about the fact that his career is nearing its end, and is one more title reign in the cards? Give your thoughts down below. At Wrestle Kingdom 18, Nick Nemeth made his debut for New Japan, and at the recent New Beginnings in Sapporo show, he dethroned David Finlay to win the IWGP Global title. The former Dolph Ziggler was supposed to have his first title defense against Hiroshi Tanahashi on April 6th, but that match has had to be postponed. On their website, New Japan explained that an ankle injury suffered by Tanahashi has led to the match being called off for now, but made it clear it will take place at a later date. It's unclear when the injury occurred, though before it was announced, Tanahashi lost to Matt Riddle in a match that saw the original Bro claim the New Japan World Television title. It's unclear how long it'll be before Tanahashi is back, as a sprained ankle could see him return in 8 weeks, while a more serious injury like Mercedes Moné's could see him out for months. Ultimately, New Japan is doing what's right for Tanahashi by giving him time to recover, but for now, the title match with Nick Nemeth will simply have to wait. During his years with WWE, Matt Riddle saw plenty go on behind the scenes, including the shocking retirement of Vince McMahon in 2022 and his subsequent return. Riddle's own departure from WWE came last September, amid reports that he'd caused issues in the company, but he wasn't the only one doing so, according to the NJPW World TV Champion. During an interview with the MMA Hour, Matt Riddle talked about working under Triple H and how it compared for him to the work of the little chaotic Vince McMahon. He said, "With Triple H in control, there's a lot more control, in the sense of things are organized. At least when I was there, if they were scheduled for this, unless something catastrophic happened, if somebody got injured or something's not going to work out, that's what's happening the next day. They write it, it's actually happening. With Vince, I feel like he did it on purpose. I don't know the method, but there would be a show. You'd get a script on Sunday, and by Monday, nobody knew what they were doing. The show was being completely rewritten, stuff like that. With Vince around, it was like that probably every week, a little chaotic. I almost felt like he did that on purpose, because I feel like when people know exactly what's going to happen and you're doing live TV and you're trying to get passion and that energy, you kind of get set in a pattern because you know what's happening." Riddle is hardly the only performer to speak of chaos with McMahon, who would infamously tear up scripts for shows at the last minute, leaving writers and talent scrambling to make new plans. Now both Riddle and McMahon are gone from WWE, and the company is a lot less chaotic for it, as Triple H is hell-bent on taking WWE to new heights without his father-in-law's butting in. It was in late 2023 that QT Marshall left AEW as he wanted to make his name in the ring outside the company, but since then, he's returned to AEW in a backstage role. Marshall won't be wrestling for AEW, but will instead serve as a producer and a coach, and is very happy to do that in AEW as opposed to joining WWE. Sitting down with Sportskeeda, Marshall said that in AEW he could be a producer for 1 day a week and start at an elevated position, saying he'd be in the top 10 names working backstage. In WWE, however, Marshall said he'd be starting from the bottom, earning less money, and he'd be on the road more, adding that being with his friend Cody Rhodes would be the only perk. Despite this, Marshall did speak to WWE and said he could never say for certain what would have happened, but he's very pleased to be back with AEW. Marshall will be able to compete outside AEW, another perk that may not have been granted if he were a producer for WWE, and he's ready to make his name both in and out of AEW. And we're ending with AEW Revolution, as the previously announced Meat Madness match won't be happening, as according to Tony Khan, injuries to talent forced plans to change. Instead, an all-star scramble will take place at Revolution instead, but the choice of combatants has raised some questions as to the legitimacy of Khan's claims. The Meat Madness match was supposed to feature Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Lance Archer, all of whom will be in the all-star scramble match instead. During the AEW Revolution media call, Khan explained the situation, saying that more names were going to be added to Meat Madness, including Keith Lee and Miro. Given that both men are sidelined though, the decision was made to put the match on ice, though this explanation has only raised more questions. Lee and Miro have both been out of action for some time, so why would Khan announce Meat Madness knowing that the talent he wanted in the match would not be able to compete? Whatever his reasoning, the All-Star Scramble will feature Wardlow, Hobbs, Archer, Hook, Chris Jericho, Brian Cage, and 2 participants to be decided on this week's Rampage and Collision. CMLL's Magnus will go against Matt Sydal on Rampage, while Collision will see Brian Keith, Dante Martin, and Penta El Cero Miedo face off for a spot, and we'll have to see who moves on to Revolution.